For Gallery's 50th anniversary, I'd like to read one piece from Peter Fallon's collection, News of the World, and one from my own book, Foreign News. In The Old Masters, the poet celebrates the perpetuation of tradition through the creation of work and through its dissemination. The words "we unclenched fists of ivy, hammered home, spiked stays" suggest the idea of the service which the Gallery Press continues to render to new generations of poets, as they have for 50 years. I'd like to read that poem and my own Brisha an Vulcan, with thanks to Peter, to Jean, and to all at the Gallery Press. The Old Masters by Peter Fallon. First, there was the wonder of their work. We read their lines and outlines, took asunder tops of walls, roof remains, roofing, a nail bar underneath a granite hundredweight. How they got up what we could not get down, we wonder yet. We put our plans away. We rode and tied the horse of their instruction, used all we could again. We unclenched fists of ivy, hammered home spiked stays, wall plates, rafters, runners, timber felled and treated from a Loch Crew wood. We nailed sheet iron, shelter for the hay, a settled flock. That shed's founded on rock and finished for our time, like the work of woodsmen who, when they have finished chopping, chop the chopping block. I'll finish with the last poem from my own collection, Foreign News, with translations by David Wheatley. I read the Irish and the English. Brisha an Vulcan. Níor eitill an tain na níoga rubble, níor réig ein bheach gur cóg. Níor hiúil an lón faoin gahar mhór, an chahar mhór níor dóach. An leiscéal a bheith agam hain, gur brisha churann gan chuine. Ní mise is fearr dúir dealrú I dacha le scaoile nada. Ná tugtar ar mé má chuige, nar higas an sealach ón tine. Tá na hamagam tosú as an nua, dá le curriocht leis an tán tile. The volcano erupts. The bird didn't fly tail first, or the hive lose a single drone. The lion didn't prowl below the city, and the city didn't burn down. All I've got by way of excuse is being caught on the hop, who was never the first in line for when the penny dropped. But don't be so hard on my youth, that I loved fire and not the fireplace. Time I started over, and like Cuchulainn, went to war with the waves. Guim dáanta nua ar an dána.
I'm going to start with a poem called Responsibilities, which is from my first collection that Gallery Press published back in 1985. The poem is inflected a little bit with the play that I had watched or seen earlier on a few years before this book was published, called Faith Healer by Brian Friel, in which the lead role of Frank, the faith healer, was played by Donal McCann. And there's a wonderful litany of names and descriptions of landscape that form part of a kind of scene that runs through the play. And that influenced this poem when I wrote it. The poem is actually based around Bangor in County Down, Northern Ireland. Responsibilities for Brian Friel. The child turns in a cot, and stars increase what hold they have over the infirm and forgotten whose time this is, near enough to dawn, when back rooms are washed with light, and down along the esplanade the sea booms around the shining rocks. It's like I haunt this dormitory town of parks and one-way streets, of evangelical picnics and children screeching through days on the beach. For there, in the rented red brick holiday homes, families keep the faith. And for all I know, those who lie awake reading the Old Testament dream of tomorrow's excursion and pray for the sun, as I gaze out at the sky that's starting to clear and wonder about the innocent and the guilty. The next poem, the second poem I'll read, is called The Last Peacock, and it's the title poem of the most recent volume I've published with the Gallery Press called The Last Peacock, which was published last year in 2019. It's based around an event, something that actually happened in the wonderful Morrowfield House in County Wexford. We were staying there for a night, and were greeted by this wonderful display of the house peacock, George. And later that night, as we were walking through the grounds, a storm brewed up, and things started to get a bit rocky. I looked up into this stand of trees, and there was George ensconced inside in the branches, just waiting out the storm. And it seemed to me a wonderful kind of contrast between his security and sense of self and the kind of the storm, which was actually kind of building up quite dramatically. So, The Last Peacock. George, the last peacock, nibbles and picks at the grubs on tree bark, fallen leaves, shrubs, the name of which I've forgotten. And in his own fashion of walking, heads our way, the little crest sparkling in the sun like jade, indigo. This zestfulness, unattached and all alone. So it came as no surprise that night, as we held on in the gathering storm, to barely spot him, tucked up in a tangle of branches, blue eyes in the darkness, blink, blink. And I'd like to conclude with reading a poem by a poet I have lots of respect for, whose work I love a lot, Elaine de Quillinon. And I'm going to read a poem from her volume, The Boys of Blue Hill, published in 2015. It's a stunning poem. It's called Passing Palmer's Green Station. And there are a couple of references at the end which may need just a quick gloss. Aristio, the playwright, the poet, it features along with Astolfo, who sits on this extraordinary mythic creature, the hippogriff. You can look it up. It's a wonderful image to conclude and to contrast between contemporary London underground and the 16th century Italian poet Ludovico Aristo. Passing Palmer's Green Station. The train flies through the station, and here is where, for years, I would step down to the platform and climb up the long stairway to the road. On it goes, past that other station, where my mother lost one shoe in the gap, coming back from the hospital, where she had left her younger daughter among the dying. My weight on the same ground, the rails and the overhead wires the same, the labours of the bones. The train dips under the ground, and for the last stage on this journey, I am close to them, to the gap that resembles the dark side of the moon in Aristio, where Astolfo flew on the hippogriff and discovered that everything lost on the earth can again be found. Thank you.
The wall I built, the sea took. The stones I gathered, the sea scattered. Falling asleep, I look left, right. Because you see, they don't make tomorrow like they used to.
On the way to a funeral in Cavan, a crow flew into the windscreen. On the way to another funeral in Cavan, a rabbit ran under the wheel. Listen, I've heard souls shoot up with a thump into heaven. And then I sat in the seat wondering what was coming on the next straight stretch. It seems the men and women I've grown up with have sprouted wings or turned into hares for a split second at the final reckoning. So I'm going to no more funerals in Cavan. There won't be a bird or a badger left alive in the country. So if you're coming over the curlews and you kill a ferret, turn back, friend. The chances are you'll meet my hearse.